for men to get involved in the issue as well. But when they're vocal, it's important that they're taking their cues for women.
Now, Justicar finds this absurd, and because of his amazing grasp of logic, who am I to argue? But the analogy that Justicar makes is, he says,
I don't know about the rest of you, but I really like this line from feminism, and in fact I'm going to adopt this logic. It is important that women get involved in the workforce. Just when they do it, they need to take their cues from men.
I would rather make another analogy. Let's say straight people can be advocates for gay rights, but they should take their cues from the gay community. It would have to be equally offensive for a gay person to say that in order to advocate for the interests of gay people, straight people have to actually understand what the interests of gay people are, and the only way to understand that is to take their cues from gay people. Now, I know Justicar agrees with me that all gay people are really gay supremacists if they advocate for gay rights. The gay rights movement is obviously a gay supremacist movement that wants special rights for gay people. I know Justicar would agree with me that gay people want special rights if they say that straight people should take their cues from the gay community when advocating for rightly points to an important fact that many people need to understand, that if you can just look at somebody and you don't see any evidence that they are oppressed, then they cannot possibly be oppressed.
And your dyed hair, your medical care, your dental care, I mean, I don't think you're a bad person for having these things, but I think that you're an idiot for going around while being among the most privileged people in the world, whining about other people needing to check our privilege.
I'll give you an example, an analogy. I saw a person who was getting disability, and they had both arms and legs. So I know that they were cheating the system to get disability, because no one could possibly have a disability for which you could not visually see just by looking at them. He compares himself to her and talks about how white her teeth are.
You fucking nitwit. Your teeth are as white as mine, and I know how much it costs to get mine this white. Don't talk to me about checking my privilege, honey.
Because Justicar whitens his teeth, and he knows how expensive whitening your teeth are. So obviously they are equal in privilege. In addition, Justicar makes the common self-defeating argument that these issues are trivial.
Here's what you do. Write like a whole bunch of bad shit in the world that's happening, get drunk, and throw one dart in the general direction. Whatever it hits, go work on that. And you will do much more with your life than this whole admit your privilege, and if everyone just admits their privilege, nothing will fucking happen. If everyone says, hey, you know, because privilege is all of, my life is not exactly the same as everyone else's lives.
Leave it to a guy who makes videos about World of Warcraft to accuse others of being trivial. Justicar doesn't realize that by bringing up privilege, we are fighting against the cognitive dissonance that allows us to blame other people. This kind of tactic is so transparent, I'm amazed that intelligent people fall for it. Just show some radicals that you can associate with any kind of minority group, any kind of legitimate rights group, and show them in a context that they're especially frightening, and then
put it around and distribute it as much as possible. Just as Fox News covers the Black Panthers. The anti-feminist hordes on YouTube use the same tactic, using just a few feminists. In fact, they have so few feminists to use that often, as I showed in my very first episode of this series, they quote mine and take out of context most of the time in order to make their cases. But they fail to see how just showing somebody who identifies themselves with this group or can be identified with this group doing something extreme does not demonize the whole group. In fact, that is the exact same logic racists use. I found a black person who did something bad, therefore all black people are bad. Well, there's widespread economic inequality based on race and gender, especially if you happen to be a woman who is of a racial minority. You're really screwed. That's just true. So we don't really have to think anymore about it. We'll just deal with that truth on its face and say it must be biological.
Here's, you cite, in Intellectuals and Race, you cite an observation by the intelligence expert, IQ scientist, James Flynn, that just stopped me cold. After the Second World War, you've got large numbers of American troops remaining in Germany. For that matter, there's still several tens of thousands there today. And both black and white American soldiers had children with German women. And Flynn discovered that those children growing up in Germany showed no IQ differences at all. The black kids and the white kids, the same. Quote, quoting Intellectuals and Race, Professor Flynn concluded that the reason was that the offspring of black soldiers in Germany, and now you're quoting Professor Flynn, grew up in a nation with no black subculture, close quote. Which means what? Which means they experienced exactly the same expectations. Is this the...
No, the expectations are external. The culture in which they grew up was not the culture in which black kids grew up in America today.
So they had...
There's no gangster rap that was pervasively available in Germany.
So here's what I'm getting. There is something about black subculture in America today that holds African Americans themselves back?
Yes. In fact, I went into this in a previous book on which about black rednecks and white liberals, because that same subculture.
Let's talk about two of your books here. Go ahead.
Because that very same subculture held whites in the South back as well. That in the time this mental testing in the First World War turned up, among other things, the fact that whites from various 4 or 5 southern states scored lower on the mental test than blacks from 4 or 5 northern states. And so it really was a question of the subculture that was there, which was a handicap to both.
Who the fuck are women to know whether or not they're equal? I mean, they're only women with their little lady brains.
So every individual member of any group is an expert on the discrimination of that particular group, is his argument. If we want to just use a fallacy like appeal to popularity, we can see in many, many polls that the majority of Americans here in the first world do not believe that women and men have achieved true gender equality.